morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Bitcoin and Beyond. I am Melanie Carstens. I am your host, and I am thrilled to have Jonas Gerber with me today. How are you, Jonas?
I'm doing very well. Happy to be here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Did I pronounce your surname properly? Because in South Africa, we would say Gerber.
That sounds pretty cool. I haven't heard that before. Haber. Gerber is how we pronounce it, how I pronounce it.
Gerber. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, well, welcome. I am thrilled to have you here with me on the show. And I kind of, before we jump into sort of Bitcoin and stacks, I kind of just like to take a step back. So I'm going to ask you to kick us off with telling us about Jonas off the resume. Jonas before Bitcoin, before music, before strategic partnerships, business development. That Jonas.
Like childhood Jonas?
Or sort of like maybe your studies, what you did before, just kind of anything.
Sure.
Yeah, like a little glimpse behind the curtain of what's out there on your CV.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Let's see. Well, even before the CV, I'll say that my parents were hippies and are hippies, and my mom was kind of like from a more traditional, like straight-laced family, but she was sort of like the black sheep of the family. And when she was a freshman in college, she was in New York City, and she went to see this band in the late 60s and fell in love with the lead singer and keyboardist of this rock and roll band, and that's my dad. And so I was kind of raised. I was raised mostly by my mom and my mom's parents. Like, so I had this like kind of unique combination of really progressive, holistic healing, hippie thinking from my mom, but also, more of a structured foundation from my mom's family. So I kind of had this dual perspective, and that manifested in different ways that kind of uniquely, like made me who I am. So I kind of so I ended up, like starting off in investment banking, like, my first job. I know. It was like when I was younger, I didn't realize, like, my dad's a professional musician, like I said, and so I'm a huge music person, and that ended up being a big part of my career as well. But at first, I kind of started off going the more traditional route because I like math, and like the sort of that path of finance and banking just came easy to me, but I never really like wanted to be like a banker. When I grew up, it was kind of like, all right, this might be like a good starting place, and I'll learn a lot. And I did. I was basically like an indentured servant as a mergers and acquisitions shop in New York City for 4 years after college.
Wow.
That was like my first job after college.
What
And
do you think about, because obviously now they are, and it's funny, I've got to tell you, but I'm married to the lead singer of a band.
nice. I love it.
Yeah, that was one of the things I noticed about your Twitter banner. I was like, because I'm so interested, obviously, in music and in stacks, and we can talk a little bit about that later on with the work that I've done, because I've brought an album to stacks, but it was just too soon for it.
Right.
There's still
Right.
things that we need to develop. But yeah,
That's all
so
pretty nascent still.
pardon.
That's all kind of a bit nascent still.
Yeah.
But
But
cool.
so it's interesting because I have a young son. So listening to you talk, because he's like myself and my husband. I mean, I lived on the road with him for say nearly 20 years. with my husband, and but I always think our son happened, and he is like also into maths, heavily into studying, and we're both sitting there like, hi.
I know it's hard to predict. It's
Yeah,
hard to predict how things are going to play out. But yeah, for me, I was kind of like, okay, I'm not sure what I want to do. I don't think I want to be like, a money piler in finance. But like, I'm learning a lot. And I was into sort of like the financial modeling, and the math side of it was just like intriguing to me and stimulating to me or whatever. But basically after 4 years of that, I'm a little older too. So, doing that for 4 years, and then somebody sent me like a 10K or like an annual report of one of the first digital music companies that existed. It was called Good Noise. Later, it changed its name to eMusic. And then when I saw that, they were like, "You should check this out. You might, it might resonate with you." And when I started reading about that, I had this epiphany of just, wow, like digital music as a soft good, to be shared, just like information, just like an email. And I grew up with kind of a front row seat to how the music industry works, and my dad definitely like got fucked over by major labels
yeah,
throughout his career in different ways. So I understood a lot of the like systemic problems in the hierarchical structure, with four. It was five. Now it's three major labels that control all the supply. So basically, I was like, this, for the first time ever, I was inspired to do something with my life. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to, get involved in this new technology to help make a better world for creators and musicians to make a living doing what they love and doing what they do, and in a way that they could connect directly to their fans. And also, as a huge crazy fan myself, I was inspired to help create a world that was better for fans, that enabled fans to really find the stuff that turned them on. So that was my first sort of launching off into kind of a whole career of disruptive business models to help creators.
isn't that incredible though? Don't you find? Because I've worked in the music industry now as well. I started managing my husband very early on, just because it's a shit show to find a good manager, as I'm sure you also know, it's a nightmare. So it generally ends up being somebody in your family, or also just the Sony issues. They're basically law firms with a small marketing department. That's really what they are. It's ridiculous.
Totally.
So that was the same reason that I came to crypto. But don't you think it's so interesting? I've also lived through that whole transition period from sort of a period of, from CD, specifically, I worked in it from CD to streaming, or MP3, then MP3 to streaming, and obviously now to where we are now, with the Spotify give your music away for free model, as if it wasn't bad enough in the beginning. But
Totally.
don't you think it's fascinating how fast music has moved through technology and got not only in the way it was consumed, but how it was created, distributed,
Totally.
got people on board? I mean, how many times does that ever happen, really?
Totally. It's been part of like the Trojan horse of what's been leading the way, for a lot of new fronts in technology and new business models. A lot of it, unfortunately, has been at the expense of the artists. It's like, I spent probably 20 years helping to build 5 different companies, 3 in music, one in animation, and then one in sort of the democratization of video production. But in end of 2019, I became somewhat disillusioned because I was like, I've had an amazing run, and I've been lucky to be involved in some awesome projects. Like I was on the original team that we built the Rhapsody music subscription service. So that was like Spotify, but 15 years too early. so I've been involved in some great stuff, but like late 2019, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, my God, if anything, it's fucking worse for artists now. And I was late to Bitcoin, but like that at that time, that's when I also started learning about decentralized networks. And wow, here's a framework where the value doesn't necessarily need to be held so closely held in the middle, where it can actually accrue to the edges, where all the different stakeholders, the creators and the users, could participate commensurately. And like that's what got me into Bitcoin. And then it was kind of cool. So I kind of got into crypto 4.5+ years ago for the decentralized web. But then I started learning about sound money. I mean, I went to business school, like I was in finance and I went to business school, but I never learned as much about finance or the economy as I did when I started studying Bitcoin. And everybody says that, but it's true. But like it kind of like getting into, immersing myself in the Bitcoin ecosystem, even though I came in for the decentralized web, and that's still so important to me, and that's all coming. But I'm kind of like, I think about it as I got in for the decentralized web, but right now I'm staying for the sound money, and to transform this global financial system to make it more accessible for people all over the world. So it's kind of interesting how it came back in a little bit in a way. It kind of brought me back to my roots in finance in a weird way that I never could have predicted.
But that's amazing, isn't it? The story of life. You kind of get to, like, you get a bit, when you're in it and you're younger, you kind of thinking like, what am I doing? Where's this all going? And then you get to a point and you're like, okay, I realize all these pieces have fallen into place. This is what I'm meant to do.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Like I have kids too, and they're teenagers, and it's freaking crazy. but like I try to tell them, like, no one ever like really knows exactly like what they're going to do, what they should be doing or what they want to be doing. It's kind of like if you can have a North Star, and something that inspires you to head in a certain direction, and then just be forthright, be honest, be true to yourself, and be opportunistic along the way, you'll find that you'll start to piece something together that'll be meaningful later,
Yeah, that's exactly it. As long as you kind of, and that's the thing. It's not really about like a rigid direction, because oftentimes that can end up, if you're not, life isn't like that. It's kind of like ebbing and flowing all over the show, and so we say that to our son. It's just enjoy yourself, find out what you love, and then try and make money from that.
Well, I mean, totally. I mean, that's, in some ways that sounds, it's obvious to us, but it's shockingly foreign to so many people, the idea of optimizing for what you love. And like I always tell my parents, my hippie parents, like they always said, like, don't worry about money. They said, do what you love, like follow your passions. And if you do that, the money will come, because you're talented. And if you're authentically and organically driven by your passion, that's what makes it work. And I was like, okay, whatever at the time when I was a kid, but like it's so enlightened. I'm so grateful that I had that guidance. So good on you, mom of the year.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. But it's true. We're entrepreneurs. My son is 13, right? So I don't know, something happened. Most of the people we know are in this industry. My husband's still in music. He's been very successful. And so we know a lot of people, we hang out a lot of people in that thing. So he doesn't really know anybody who puts on a suit and tie and goes to an office. So we had never had this conversation. So my brother, who does work, but he's overseas, we were kind of trying to plan a holiday. So I said, no, we've got to do it like over this. He can only come like 1 of 4 times during the year. So someone was like, what do you mean? So I said, no, well, if you have a job in a company and you're employed by somebody, then, you know, these are the rules. They tell you when you can go on holiday. You can only have this. He was so horrified. And the fact that you could only earn the same amount of money every month. He was like, what do you mean? I'm not doing that. That's terrible. But that's the thing. It's like, I actually wouldn't want my son to. That's why I'm so excited about what we do. And the idea that you can retain your sovereignty and independence and still earn money, you know. And I think that has to be what the future looks like. The evolution of what industry and economics and all, it can't, we've always moved forward and evolved. And we're in that rolling over stage at the moment. Isn't that exciting? You know?
I love it. I mean, I love being a part of this evolution. Like, I realize looking back on all the things I've done, like, bad systems kind of emerge and become entrenched, often because of, corporate interests and, and those with power finding ways to control. But there are so many better ways to do things, that, like, that kind of progressive thinking, and sort of challenging that status quo thinking. That's kind of what turns me on.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about. Sorry, I'm sort of a bit all over the show, but
Yeah, I'm having a ball. Whatever you want to talk about.
good. I like to just chat away and see where it goes, and sometimes it's Bitcoin, and sometimes it's beyond. Yeah. So Bitcoin stacks. So you came into Bitcoin in 2019. You kind of
Really 2020, like, in earnest. So I told you, kind of like, I had this realization that everything I'd been working on for the last 20 years was making things worse for creators. And
oh shit.
and so, yeah, I started learning about, decentralized infrastructures.
Did
And
you read something? Did what? How did that kind of?
I think, like, a
Rabbit hole.
friend. I
On the rabbit hole to fall down it.
I think, one or two of my friends, in conversations about, like, in my despondence, like, said, you should check out Web3, like this thing called Web3. You should check out Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, is the OG. It's the organic, the only truly decentralized and authentic public infrastructure for all this. So I had a few people say that might be kind of right up your alley. And I read the white paper, and I was like, holy shit, like, I can't believe, like, I've been asleep at the wheel on this, for over 10 years, since Bitcoin had already existed. I never gave it the time of day. And then basically, I ended up meeting Munib. Like, basically, I had a friend who knew somebody that worked at Blockstack. It was called Blockstack at the time. And I was interviewing at Coin. I started, like, saying, all right, I want to, like, pursue this for the next chapter of my career. Like, this is going to be huge. Like, this hasn't even gotten started yet. This whole sort of crypto Bitcoin thing. But I already, right out of the gates, I was very biased towards Bitcoin, like, versus everything else. Like, I just naturally was drawn to the authenticity of Bitcoin. And anyway, like, I ended up, like, on a Zoom with Munib in 2020. It wasn't even really an interview. It was more of an informational session, but it turned into kind of an interview. And it was just like, Munib is, I love Munib. Like, we're really close friends, and we've been colleagues for a long time. But that was basically it. Like, I was like, listen, man, like, I don't really know that much about crypto yet, but like, here are the things I've done, and here's what I do know. And Muneeb had the foresight. Muneeb actually wanted to bring in people from outside of crypto to help, build this industry and build this ecosystem. And he had that kind of foresight and independent thinking. He was unique in that way. And so we had one 45-minute conversation, and then it was like, he was like, let's have another. We had two just long, incredible conversations, and that was it. And then I joined Blockstack, and I've been there ever since.
What an incredible story.
Yeah.
Amazing. Another amazing sort of, life lesson, how you just never know. You're going to turn that page and just an entire new, who would say that? And this is what I love about it. I've had 3 careers. I owned an ad agency. I then managed my husband and worked in the music industry. And now I'm doing that. Not that I'm working, but I am working. But just
does this feel like work? Does it?
We were saying today on the show, like, I want a job. So somebody on the show said, yeah, but you've got a job. This is your job. She says, do you mean you want to be paid? I'm like, okay, that's exactly it. Yes. But yeah, this is I don't know what is it?
But you had the courage to,
yes,
take on these new chapters and to take on to the risks, and sort of battle the fears of doing something new. I mean, I don't know, a lot of people my age, I know a lot of people my age are like, God, like, I just can't wait to retire.
yes.
And I'm like, I don't even, I'm never going to retire. Like, I don't even think of, like, I'm like, oh my God, I just got into this new industry and it's like the bottom of the first inning, and I cannot wait for the next 30 years of building a new internet, and
I have become like so health conscious. It's out of control, because I'm just thinking to myself, oh my God, I need to live to like 120. And that is not negotiable, because there's a lot of things I have to do. I need to go to space. I need to see what happens with all of this. I need to see what happens with AI. I need to see what happens with quantum computing. I need to, I'm fascinated with all of it. But I speak to people. First of all, the Bitcoin part is like, that's already makes people kind of glaze over a little bit when I start talking. And so I said to my husband the other day, you know what
what starts to glaze over about
the Bitcoin? So when you talk to people like you go out to dinner party.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, and then I start talking about Bitcoin and my app, and then stacks, and how much I love it and how it's going to change the world. And people already are just kind of like, they start glazing over. So I said to my husband the other day, I want to start investing in space colonization and all that. So my husband's like, okay, you can't go to dinner, okay, with anybody and move from Bitcoin to space colonization.
Why? That sounds like the most awesome dinner conversation I've ever had. Like, you should.
But people are just like,
no, I know you mean, like, with Bitcoin and crypto, like, when I'm outside, in the world, in my normie world, it's like, I never want to be that guy that's like talking on and on about Bitcoin. So like, I'm never like proactive. Like, and sometimes when people ask me what I do, sometimes I just say like, I don't even want to go there. Sometimes I'm in tech, or I work at a software company. But when they really like genuinely lean in and want to talk about it, I'm like, all right, are you sure? Because I can go. I can really get going on this.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. Okay. Well, that's what I want to do. I just want to talk to people about Bitcoin. But like you say, you can't. It's not yet. Because we spend our days doing it, I find it very surprising, at how little information, you walk around specifically. I don't know what it's like in the States, but here in South Africa, you don't see it anywhere or hear about it anywhere. if you're not on crypto Twitter, you're not 100% sure what's
It's
going on.
crazy. It's a crazy dichotomy. Exactly what you said. Like, in our day to day, we have this strong sense of knowing the transformation that is happening in the world right now. And it's like there's a digital gold rush happening right now. Yet, like, I'm in the suburbs of San Francisco, and it's like people are just fucking clueless. Like, and also it's part of that, like, it's a challenge for the industry, but there is that learning curve if you really want to understand how it works. And so, people don't like to do that work, or if they don't understand it, sometimes it's easier just for them to feel like it must
Just look
be
up.
BS.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's like,
So, but
it's not on TikTok. I don't know it happened. What?
exactly. So it is a strange, like, dichotomy of this life we live, where we step out of our hovel and people just have no idea what we're involved in. But it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so you had this, totally serendipitous experience where you kind of thought, okay, the music industry and the creative industry sucks. Okay, they're totally ripping people off. Right. Discovered Bitcoin and miraculously Manib and then Stacks. Is that me or you that's going beep like that?
I'm sorry, it's me, and I don't know.
It's got in here. Somebody came and set up. My husband's producer came and set up this mic and a little box, and I'm still trying to figure out how it works.
Let me do one thing that might help. Hold on.
It's not bothering me. I just thought it was me.
Okay. No. It's me. I apologize.
It's okay. Okay. So when you came into Stacks, what was, or Blockstack, how did that develop now, that role? Because you were saying before we came on air that you part of the position that you have is with Hiro, and then there's another part of business development when it comes to Stack. So maybe just walk me through that.
Yeah. So, as you know, Stacks is an extremely decentralized ecosystem. And Hiro. So as I joined, Blockstack was just changing its name to Hiro Systems, and that was part of this kind of like divestiture, if you will, of the one single entity, Blockstack, splitting up into a few different entities, including the Stacks Foundation. And what remained of Blockstack, was the dev tooling function. And then we changed our name to Hiro. And so, Hiro is a small and growing company that I was part of the leadership team of. So, like, helping to steer the ship from a strategy and partnership perspective. But, we have this symbiotic relationship, with the whole Stacks ecosystem, right? Like, Hiro is the Hiro can only, in the long run, will only be as healthy as the Stacks ecosystem is, right? We're providing the tools for devs to build all these apps, and so so basically, it's when I try to explain, what it means to do business development for an ecosystem. When I try to explain this to people completely outside of our world, what I say is, like, imagine if you were building a digital city, right? And you had to start off by providing all the infrastructure that businesses and civilians need to kind of open up their doors, have a home, and be able to live their lives and grow their businesses. And so all the infrastructure that an ecosystem needs, that everything from oracles to stable coins to signers and validators to custodians to bridges MPC wallets. It's like you need all these pieces in place for the builders to build this city, a city that can thrive, and where all the different stakeholders can thrive together symbiotically. So, that's what the focus is, and I do that with some incredible. I mean, I feel so like, like I said, I'm kind of a Munib maxi. Like I was I was totally into Bitcoin and the idea of what Stacks is all about, which is, as you know, which is really to make Bitcoin more successful, to extend the utility and the value, and to scale Bitcoin and allow Bitcoin to achieve its full potential. That's what it's all about. And like, I'm all in on that hook, line, and sinker. But I was also like, holy shit, like I'm hitching my wagon to this guy, Munib, because he's a fucking badass, and a great person as well. But it's not just Munib. It's like, the business development working group, I get to work with so many creative and interesting and kind and smart and independent thinking people we have represented. We have, it's comprised of folks from Trust Machines, from the Stacks Foundation, and from Bitcoin L2 Labs, and myself. And it's just so inspiring. It's just so inspiring. And I, spending 20 years in like Web 2, actually Web 1 and then Web 2, it's like, I just love the diversity of thinking. It's so refreshing what we have here in this industry. And so, so working with these people to help, sort of fulfill the vision of Stacks and Bitcoin.
So cool. I am 100% with you. With Munib, there's like an energy that some people give off, and a certain level of genius that you can see an entire universe away. You know what I mean? He's just, I love watching him speak. I love what he was thinking even before anybody else even had an idea. It blows my mind, actually.
It's insane. Like, I mean, he really like created this category of Bitcoin layer 2s that is like, exactly. And it's like the primary narrative right now, arguably in all of crypto. It's like, I don't want to like kiss Munib's ass too much. Like he's on this live thing. Like he's too busy. He's never going to watch this. He's too busy probably to watch this. Maybe I'll get him to watch. I'll try to get him to like invest a couple of minutes into it. But like, it's not just like, forget about the sort of, whatever, Princeton PhD in computer science and that whole level of thinking, and his background about how when he was a kid, kind of in a rural part of Pakistan, like figuring out how to get onto the internet, in the early mid 90s, whenever it was, and get into chat rooms and start to learn that the real world, outside of the government controlled media that he lived in, the real world was a lot different. And he kind of got this shit, like besides like the engineering mind and the whole like inspiring backstory, he's also just like one of the most impressive business thinkers I've ever worked with. And I've been so fortunate. I've worked with so many successful investors and entrepreneurs, and he's like, when you combine like his business and marketing savvy, with his technical understanding, and then his humility, it's a generational thing. He's a visionary.
Yeah, but it's also inspiring. I mean, I live in Africa, as you know, and the idea, that was another thing, that besides the music industry and really trying to look for a better way for artists, it was also a case of what it could do for countries like my country, and sort of the youth, the children, just access to a device, and you've got anything you could ever want to know at your fingertips. Children today, we were talking about sort of these kids vibe coding, 6 years old, building games. My son does it. He's 13. He builds a game a weekend. To him, that's like we would in the olden days, go and game. I'm a gamer. You'd sit there for a weekend gaming. He spends his weekend building games. They play them by the end of the weekend. They've built it, played it, him and his buddies, and then they're on to the next one.
It's so cool. It's so good for their minds too. It's so creative.
Yeah, so creative. Yeah, well, the thing, he excels at school. And, if you think back in the, I know a lot of people who look at me who, they don't, especially where I live in a, near the southern tip, they don't allow their kids online, a lot of people.
Is that right?
Like, what? Crazy. Anyway, yeah, but I love that story, his story, and how inspiring it is for the kids that live in these. Like I said, if we can just get strong internet into this country, and facilities, I'm very involved in and very interested in that side of it as well. But okay, so God, you've had such an interesting just career, and how, like you say, how it's brought you here. What are your thoughts now on it's my assistant phoning me. What are your thoughts on music and Web3? Out of interest, we both come from that background, so why not?
Yeah. So one caveat is like, I haven't, in terms of like my career, my sort of professional focus and where I'm spending my time, like it's all kind of SBTC and building out, this programmable Bitcoin ecosystem and all that. I haven't really had I wish I had, another life or more time to focus on like the emerging opportunities for, music and creators and artists and Web3. So I guess my thoughts are, there's a lot of promise, right? The idea that, using kind of, scarce digital assets and NFTs, and using that technology and that framework to, connect directly with your fan base and be able to kind of set the rules of the value sharing yourself. There's incredible opportunity. That whole your top 1,000 fans thing, and being able to make a living off of that, like there's so much promise in that. At the same time, you still need to build a fan base, right? You still need to somehow, market yourself and connect and find these fans and connect them to what you're doing. And that takes resources. And that's part of the trap, right? Artists rely on others for the resources that are necessary, to build these fan bases. And then they start to lose leverage. So there's still some kind of inherent vulnerabilities in sort of an artist's ability to really make a living doing what they love to do. But there's incredible opportunity. And the last thing I'll say about this, and then I'll pause, is like, while so much is changing and has changed in the technology and the way music is produced, distributed, and consumed, what hasn't changed is like the live music experience is still, to me, the most critical and the most beautiful, the most important part of that world. And like that, like personally, like I see a ton of live music. And like that's like a really important part of my life. I probably see on average 4 live shows a month. Not always once a week, but like, often once a week, and then sometimes a couple of times on a weekend, whatever.
And how it stayed with you your whole life.
I'm super into that. But like a lot of the bands that I'm into are more peripheral. I've never been into like popular music, like, the pop stuff. It's partly because like my dad never really was embraced by like the mainstream. And I was always like, he's so much fucking more talented than everybody I'm hearing on the radio. I was a little biased. So I was like, I was drawn to more of the peripheral, less popular stuff. But anyway, the stuff I'm into is like very improvisational. Like every live performance is different. And like bands that are constantly keeping their fans surprised and evolving and doing something new, they can build these relationships, these sustainable relationships, and grow their fan base. And when you have that, then you have something that you could monetize and make a living on. And I haven't seen too many strategies that can replace just getting on the road, and touring and doing and doing what you do and connecting with fans in the real world. That's like the foundation. So in some ways that has never changed. So those are some of my thoughts.
Once you've been to a live show and you understand whether you like it or not. I mean, I'd never been to a live show before I met my husband. I just totally thought in my head, I don't like live music because I'd never been to one.
Yeah.
And some of the greatest moments of my life have been at a festival or, at a gig, because the trip it takes you on in your, emotionally, and being there and feeling the energy of everybody else. So yeah, that is something that can never.
Talk about connection. Like as a fan, to me, when I'm immersed in a live music experience, it's become like, medical is not the right term, but it's for my health. It's like when the sound vibes are washing over me, it's visceral and it's physical, it's emotional, it's intellectual, and it's just that connection with the live music at that time is just so therapeutic for me, and it's gotten me through like those difficult times in my life as well. So I don't know how it's all going to play out. I think like right now, most of like the more prevalent use cases and sort of what the things that are taking shape because of blockchain technology are more rooted in upending the financial and the economic our economic and financial worlds, and kind of that's where we're focusing on to sort of build this new kind of user-owned internet and new financial system. But this is all a foundation from which everything else is going to be built on, including all these other segments.
Yeah, once you've got the money or the rails right, then it can all run,
Totally.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I hope to see some sort of change. I mean, obviously we know it's going to come, but it's about how long it's going to take, where we can see, artists, creators being able to just earn some money again from their music, that they also don't have to live on the road, because that is a drawback of it. But at the same time, we've got this kind of weird situation because people have gotten used to getting music for free. They're now through Netflix are getting used to getting their films for free. So it's kind of
tricky. It's very tricky.
Yeah.
It's like the only protected revenue streams are the underlying compositions and the publishing, and then the live experience, and even the publishing is hard to monetize. You can have an incredible catalog of original music, of brilliant, mind-blowing original music. It's not easy to monetize it, and you need a lot of connections, and you still need to rely on kind of a lot of the sort of gatekeepers and the intermediaries in the entertainment business to make a living off that. So, and then there's the live music experience, which is also, arguably a protected revenue stream because it can't be replicated. But that's not easy. The lifestyle, the getting the gigs, finding the opportunities. And then the merch is like another kind of revenue stream that is meaningful and sort of, protected from like AI or the whole free music experience. But these are it's very tricky. It's an important problem because we need we need these creators, and these creators need to be able to make a living.
That's the thing. I mean, in terms of onboarding people, right? We always hear we're going to onboard the next however many, million people or whatever it is to Bitcoin through what we're doing, right? With stacks. Now, we are having a conversation today in the sort of relationship between onboarding normies and DeFi and how, the idea of taking, say, for example, let's say stacks, right? Taking it to people where they are rather than asking them to come to where we are, right? Because it's hard enough as it is. I don't know how I'm sort of going around in a circle trying to say this, but DeFi is I know we need it to work. I understand that completely. But it's something I'm curious about. It's how do we draw those people in with something that is very complicated? Is it going to get simpler and to a point where, it's just a button on the phone and we can take it to them? Or is it going to be something like a Spotify or a gaming or where people go, oh, okay, I can do this and not even know that they're using Web3? Or is DeFi going to get to a point where they don't even know they're using Web3? How is that? How do you see that all?
Yeah. I mean, God, there's so much in that question.
I don't
No, but it's good. No, it's thought provoking, and there's kind of like some of the obvious stuff, or I don't know how obvious it is, but some of the stuff that you hear a lot, which is, the UX obviously needs to improve so much, and it's like, at some point, this is never going to scale if it depends on people like having to understand how the technology works under the hood. And we've never expected that in any other medium. It's like we didn't expect people who started watching TV to understand like the technology behind the broadcasting so all that. But like, I think I would take it. I'll answer it from a different angle, because it's like also because I'm a little older than the median age in crypto, a lot older. Like the people in my
we are young.
the people in my life, are like super clueless about crypto, like and blockchain. Like the people outside of my stacks life and my Bitcoin life and sort of my family. Like I'm talking, including my wife.
Undercover agents. We're like undercover agents.
and so a lot of times they're just like, look, like I don't like, what is the big deal? Like I don't get it. I don't need it. I don't want to try to understand it. And when you think about it, like any like transformational innovation, right? Like I see Bitcoin as the most important innovation since the internet. And AI, to me, AI is sort of like all encompassing. It goes across everything. It's a little different, but for any like any transformational innovation, like it happens in large part because it solves a huge problem, right? And so like Bitcoin, like people like, in the Bay Area or in New York, or, people in my world, in our world, in the United States, like they do have a problem, like that that their currency is being egregiously debased, and it's on a path to some real problems, but they don't realize it. They don't feel it. So it's the people in other parts of the world, right, who like who are dealing with inflation, 50 to 100% inflation every year, who are dealing with authoritarian governments who can and will seize their assets anytime they want to, like people who don't have economic freedom. Like that's where, these opportunities to participate in a financial system so you could create economic freedom for yourself. That's where, like, I think DeFi will take hold. And then, over time, as the fiat system really falls apart, even in even in the Western world, I think people will. I just think that's what's going to drive the adoption in terms of Web3, and it's going to be some user app or some set of applications that enable things that could never have been possible, on Web2. And that's kind of obvious, but those are some of the ways I think about growing adoption.
Yeah, and I mean, I must say, like I said, I live in Africa, and it was very interesting. I was in the mall the other day purchasing. I've got a few phones, right? So I needed another phone. I've got like all sorts of things going on each of them, and the guy selling me the phone said to me, why are you buying so many phones? I said, no, because I work in crypto and I've got different things going on all of them. And I like to have sometimes be on an app, have like a leather wallet in an app. So then I just get a new phone for each wallet. Anyway, so he's like, the guy selling me in the thing, he was like, okay, can you tell me about this? I look at people who've got like hundreds of millions of dollars in their bank account, and they're just like, oh no, I'm gonna go buy a wine farm. I'm gonna buy another yacht. These are like what my mates, and I'm like, but don't you, and then this guy, he's just like, show me what must I download? How can I get, so interested. And
Totally.
yeah. And I also previously, when I first got into this, I saw a video clip about the idea of creating a communal currency. So where you have somebody, we have what we call townships here, where people live in corrugated iron, sometimes cardboard houses, corrugated iron houses. And you look at those people now, they can't afford services. They can't afford anything. They get up, they go and do whatever their job is, and they come home. They've got very, very little, no money. They've got a sandwich for dinner or whatever. Now, the idea that they could create services that they sell to each other with this communal currency. So yes, this person wants to have her hair done, but she can't afford to go to a hairdresser, but there's somebody else in the community who that is her day job, but she could do it on the weekends. So you start creating these tiny little economies everywhere.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And I was like, I love that idea. And when I look at something like stacks and meme coins, we're building something that I don't even think we can't see. We're inside we haven't got into the universe yet and are looking back at Earth. We're still kind of fumbling around on our planet, in the crypto land. And I love the idea of you kind of have, obviously Bitcoin as your base layer. Then you've got stacks, which is kind of a currency. I always feel like that is such a great normie currency just to buy and sell, concert tickets and whatever it is you're doing. But then you've got meme coins. And such a fascinating use for me is this idea that you can create a currency in your community, So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with the different layers and how these layers can all work together. So I do understand, and I do see that here. We've got what we call spaza shops, again, which are corrugated iron shops. These guys are starting to accept Bitcoin.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't really think of stacks as a currency. I think
the only person who says that.
Totally right. I think of stacks as as a gas asset that is there to serve the currency that is Bitcoin, right? And now we have a way to enable Bitcoin to be so much more than just a store of value, than just something that sits there idle in your cold hardware wallet. But you have this ability to transform some of that Bitcoin into this like fast moving programmable currency that you can use that you can use for all kinds of different things, and it's cheaper, it's faster, it has more utility, it's scalable, but then it all settles back, into the mothership.
That's so
It's so
interesting.
cool.
Are you saying you see people actually using their Bitcoin to buy groceries?
No, I'm just saying, like, what we're enabling with SBTC is a world where it's like, if Bitcoin is the most sound money that's ever been created, then
Yeah.
that should be the money of the internet. That should be the money of the world, right? But it's got some shortcomings, right? And so
Yeah.
basically, what SBTC is designed to do and what Stacks enables, right, is to start to do more, to start to use Bitcoin in a way that brings more utility to your life. And it's definitely like, using SBTC for payments is like going to be a killer application. It's way easier than Lightning. Yeah, right. There are no like capacity constraints. It just works, and it's fast, and it settles right back on Bitcoin when you're done with the transaction. So I think and more importantly, like, think about this. Like, this may be kind of obvious to you or people who live in our world, but like, the whole ethos of Bitcoin, right, is decentralization.
Yeah.
But how is and obviously BTC, the asset, is like having its moment. It's like being adopted and recognized by the mainstream. But how is it being used today? Pretty much all on centralized exchanges, right? And now it's being like, TradFi-ized, with all these EFT things like happening on Wall Street. And there's a lot of good about that too. But I'm just saying, like, that's not how Bitcoin is designed to be used. What Stacks exists so Bitcoin could be deployed and used on decentralized.
Yeah.
So that's what's so cool about it. That's what's so cool about SBTC.
Yeah. It's so interesting, all the kind of different conversations, because obviously you've got stable coins on Bitcoin, you've got stacks, like you say, okay, gas, SBTC. But it's interesting to kind of the idea of spending Bitcoin on one hand. I kind of still can't, I'm still of the, I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know. And then another thing I wanted to ask you your thoughts on, because this is another thing. I wrote an article about it the other day, and a lot of people have just been like, what? What are your thoughts on, like, with MicroStrategy or now strategy, and sort of governments and that buying up like a shit ton of Bitcoin?
I think it's fascinating. Oh my God. It's like I said earlier, like, sorry.
Isn't it weird? Like, you're kind of thinking like, okay, this is supposed to be like every man's money, and now we're gonna have like, I mean, how many fucking Bitcoins do you have to own, dude? Chill out.
I know. I mean, sometimes it feels like a dud. Like, it's great for the price of BTC in the long run. So, for people who have the
Yeah,
opportunity to acquire it. But I hear you. But at the same time, they can't control the system. They can own a lot, but they can't control the system. I just think it's fascinating, the game theory that is playing out right now.
yeah.
And it's like this arbitrage of people just trying to get their hands on as much fiat as possible and swap it into Bitcoin. It's like, if that doesn't show sort of the relative value of how many people think of the relative value of the US dollar and Bitcoin. I think it's insane. But like, and I'm not, the whole MicroStrategy, the whole like, all this financial engineering and all these new products that are different ways of kind of enabling people to give you their fiat dollars, so you can use that to buy Bitcoin. I mean, it's super volatile, and they say, Saylor always says, like, volatility, is an asset. It's all about, like, volatility is what makes this so valuable. and I don't fully understand all the financial engineering. I don't claim to, but there's definitely a downside that we're going to see at some point. And with like, so it's like, I think in the long run, it's good that corporations and governments are realizing that Bitcoin is this unique way to protect and preserve value, right?
Yeah.
And it's met like, and as more and more companies and governments get on board, it's becoming a reality. We all knew it was going to happen, and we all knew the value prop and believed in it, but now we're seeing it like become a reality and manifesting through all these corporate treasury, all these acquisition strategies. But like, these stocks, that are tied to the price of digital assets with 10x leverage, like there's going to be some pain at some point. I'm not saying it's all going to like break and be useless and unwind altogether, but but people better put on their seatbelts and get ready.
Yeah. Oh my God, it is. I read The Sovereign Individual. That was that was like the first kind of Bitcoin, or, a book that led me down this rabbit hole of insane reading. And there are moments in that book where I'm just like, lights, okay, the lights can't get any brighter. It's just so much in that. And it's such an old book. You think
that book is incredible. And it's one of those things where it's like scary and exciting all at once.
It's like a real thriller. If you haven't read it, read The Sovereign Individual. So exciting year last year with Nakamoto, with the incredible launch of SBTC. And I mean, that went like super duper well, right? I mean, there was a hiccup or two, but when it finally got going, and good on that as well. I loved the delay. I loved all that stuff, because what it meant was somebody cared. It wasn't just like, whack it out, let's get it going.
Yeah, we're not messing around here. Like if something needs to be improved, like this thing was not going out until it was right. And speaking of Nakamoto, like nothing's ever perfectly smooth, but stacks used to be Bitcoin speed, 10 to 30-minute blocks. And, the promise was 5-second blocks. Like that kind of got into the marketing, and when it first launched, it wasn't quite there. But I just learned today that we're averaging, like, it keeps getting faster, because it's not a binary thing that we just flip a switch and now we're done working on it. The core devs are constantly working on speed and throughput. And basically I think the average per block speed now is down to 4 seconds. I just heard that this morning. So it's fucking incredible.
I did a transaction yesterday and I actually got a fright. I was like, what happened? Where'd my money go? Oh, right. We don't have to wait. I remember in the old days minting those days of Megapont minting, because I mean, I was obviously minted like every fucking NFT and their friend.
I love it.
Yeah. And I remember just like, no, not yet. Okay, wait, no, let me go make lunch. Let me come back. My transaction's still not gone.
Yeah, now it's like you go to the Explorer. By the time you pull up the Explorer, it's there. It's pretty. I mean,
it's crazy, man.
So much, to your point, like whatever. Like obviously, I work on the team, so I'm biased, and I'm not. This is not about like tooting horns. This is just about like objectively the amount of shit. And it's not even me. Like I had nothing to do with it. It's the devs, but it's like the amount of shit that we've accomplished in terms of transforming the network, and the speeds, and 100% Bitcoin finality. And then we launched SBTC in December of last year, and we've only opened it up for inflows 3 times. And we have over $500 million of TVL, and we flipped Lightning and Liquid. Like, think about 5 months. Like 5 months is a fucking heartbeat. It's nothing in the grand scheme of things. So like, it's so, oh my God, STX is so oversold. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, sometimes the most beautiful things, you look at them and you kind of like, it's so obvious. When I stumbled across Saks, it felt so obvious to me. And I couldn't understand anybody who would listen to me. I would say, and this was like, it was like 19 cents, 14 cents. And I was saying to people, listen, this is like, they're giving away money. This is like free money. Buy as much free money as you can because, and no one would listen to me. And I still, to this day, I mean, now they're sorry. But yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you see something and it's beautiful. And that's what Stacks to me is, what it's unlocking and
Totally.
going to do and I mean, we're seeing it now, the excitement, right? So last year there was a bit of a hiccup towards the end of last year because obviously Nakamoto was delayed. So people were super excited, had kind of planned a lot of launches and a lot of stuff around Nakamoto.
I know. It was tight.
Yeah. I mean, even myself, I brought out that album. Remember I said to you, I brought out an album and it was through the D grants. I built the D grants, but I'm not built. I was part of the team that built it from cohort 1, but I was also involved with the second part, but I also got a grant.
Good work.
I did not put myself in, right?
You're pretty. If there's one takeaway, you're definitely pretty scrappy. If there's one takeaway from me,
I am scrappy. Let me tell you, I'm wiggling I love this industry, and I'm here to stay. Okay.
I love it. I love it. Me too. Me too.
Yeah, I am. I'm telling you, I am sticky. Not scrappy, sticky. I'm sticking to Stacks.
Well, you're smart. Like you kind of you have some visibility. I think you have some unique visibility in terms of like an insight and understanding in terms of the possibilities here. Like in terms of like Stacks being under the radar too. Well, wait, I think I cut you off. You were in the middle of a story about your D grant. But I was just gonna say like
don't forget we're on an interview and it's just been like sitting here like 2 hours later having a Zoom call.
Like sort of my perspective of like trying to like shout from the rooftops about the Stacks opportunity. My perspective was like when I joined Manib in late 2020, like I basically spent 2 years like trying to convince other companies to integrate, our technology and to get on board and be part of our ecosystem. And like generally the response was, wow, like building on Bitcoin, like doing all the stuff that's happening on Ethereum and elsewhere, but on the Bitcoin base layer, wow, that's actually like quite intuitive, albeit extremely contrarian. But you know what? Nobody's doing that right now. So get to the back of the line. Like it was like, pounding on doors, people totally connecting with the value proposition, but still not prioritizing it. And then, ordinals hit the scene. People saw there was some more. There was changed everything, as you know, showed organic demand for for like if you could do it on Bitcoin, you will do it on Bitcoin, and then everything changed. And then the next thing I know, there's 120 Bitcoin L2s.
I was like, where did they come from in like 2 minutes?
Yeah, I know. A lot of it.
Crazy. I was like, I thought Stacks was the only L2 for as far as the eye could see. Suddenly, no, there were a lot.
And then we had to go from creating the category to defending and competing. And it's a big open space. There are going to be so many winners. There's so much opportunity. But a lot of that is narrative chasing and pivoting and there's a lot of BS.
We all know that that's just a bunch of a lot of ghost chains. I mean, we know what it is. And if you kind of, and again, to me, one of the things I love about Manib is that no matter what happened over the last, say, 4 years or however long it's been, 5 years, 4 years, there's been no kind of like reaction, or it was just, in the days of like, that Corey dude saying, oh, it's a scam. Remember whenever he could get an opportunity to tweet.
That guy, yeah.
That guy, yeah. Don't be a Corey, people. So, but it was just like this head down, focused, and building, and not kind of doing anything for other people, doing it for stats, for
Totally.
what's being built. So, yeah, that's also another. I mean, to me, that deserves praise.
The
So,
conviction is there, and it's so powerful, right?
yeah,
And I mean, I've heard Manib say like he'll say like this is his life's work, like
yeah,
sort of little ups and downs and twists and turns. Um, they don't matter, right?
yeah.
Like he's focused on on bringing Bitcoin to 1 billion people and enabling, and we're all focused on it, enabling Bitcoin to achieve its full potential, and yeah, whatever the swans or the maxis of the world, like let them chirp. It's sort of irrelevant.
Last, guys, enjoy yourself. Okay, so great end to the year last year. Great start to the year with the caps just kind of. I mean, I tried to. My wallet was hacked and drained.
I heard about that. I'm so sorry. It
Yeah,
sucks.
I know. Everything from the last since I started, like gone. It was it's my mistake. I got too comfortable. It was everything, all my eggs, carrying my eggs in one basket, cruising along. And
So sorry.
yeah, I know.
You've
It's
you somehow have maintained such a rosy vibe. Good for you.
you know what it is, hey? My husband's a musician. We lost everything in COVID. And it's crazy. We lost everything, right? Because a year's worth of shows we were talking about it
Yeah,
just now. It's the only way we make money, right?
yeah,
So they all went away, a year's worth of work. We've got staff, we've got, so it was a snowballing thing that ended in a terrible avalanche of hell.
yeah.
Um, but so we sold everything. This is how sad. I'll tell you the saddest story.
Please.
We took all of the what we had left, right? Which wasn't very much. After we sold, we had to sell our house, our cars. I mean, it was a shit show.
Wow.
And that's what I invested. And that's what that fucking hacker, draining person took out my wallet. And I'd done so well with it, Anyway, but what I thought to myself at the time, and it's what I thought to myself when everything went tits up in COVID. My dad was a serial entrepreneur. Whatever the result has happened, I can either smile, I'm not happy about it, but I can walk forward positively. If I cry, if I lie on the floor, scream, if I write a letter to Santa Claus, it's all going to be the same result,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They're like the reality and the impact of anything that happens in life is like, 2% related to the actual event itself and 98% related to how our outlook on it and how we move forward,
yeah,
based on what happened. And
there's nothing I can do.
that's how, yeah,
No, there's nothing I can do about it. The reality is already happened. So
exactly.
I can't change it. Whatever my attitude is nothing's going to change. But the point I was trying to make is in that little thing, I had managed to get my hands on $1,000 of SBTC, which was my prized possession. That is pretty much one of the things. Was like this tiny little $1,000, but I was like, damn, I lost my SBCT. So then I wanted to try and get some more, but I was busy that day. And what was it? 4 hours?
Yeah, yeah, it was like a little under 4 hours, that third cap. We talked about like game theory before with the whole corporate treasury thing. It's kind of the same thing. Like, so many Bitcoin holders who a couple of years ago would say they would never, ever do anything with their Bitcoin, but just hodl. Like now they're seeing other people, earning Bitcoin denominated yield on their Bitcoin. It's like, I want some of that, So it's like there's demand. There's demand for it.
This is inventing stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So this is great. So now we're saying we must not much, so we're sort of a bit over time, but if it's fine, I just want to ask you sort of one more question, then I can free up because we've gone a bit over time.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so now we've seen this, we're at another incredible moment, right? Because we've just seen a new roadmap released, which I think really got everybody excited, just feeling this energy of like, okay, because sort of towards the end of last year, I feel like there was like, the energy had gotten a bit, people were tired. It was like, come on, man, when marketing. And I think that's because the community was so heads down, so passionate, and all doing our own kind of, like what we're doing with Decentralized, this little show. I had a show called Art on Stacks. We were trying so hard, and it was like, someone noticed us from up there. But I think suddenly now this, just listening to Muneeb speak the last couple of times he's spoken, taking us through this new roadmap and then the SIP, right? And how is the community? I mean, the community have come out in such force around this SIP. It's incredible.
It's so awesome. It's like I've always said, like it's hard to find like true differentiators in a project or in a protocol that are like defensible because it's all open source. Like it's just not easy. And like, in Stacks, first of all, there's POX. Like Stacks is a Bitcoin yielding asset. It's the only Bitcoin yielding asset in the world. Like that's a crazy important like driver of our success and differentiator that's really hard to replicate. But the other thing that is on par with that is the community, right? We're a mission, like most communities were incentivized, with incentives. like this is like Stacks is special. Stacks.
We've been the opposite, let me tell you. We were all like literally through the entire bear market. Okay, we carried on. We
exactly
right
because we're mission driven. You can't compete with mission driven teams that like will not stop, right? And like that's what we have here. We have a community of Bitcoin lovers that are bought in to what we can do for Bitcoin, and I think we're seeing that like this whole SIP dialogue and like the respectful dialogue and all the contributions and how leadership is incorporating the feedback. I just think it's beautiful, and some might take it for granted, but you do not find this. This is hard to find.
No, and everybody, I mean, we know it. And I think when people see it, that, I try and explain it to people as well. And we talk often about it because I'm obsessed with the network state as well. And we talk about that often, that Stacks is that. It's happening. It's this, we've all come together. We're spread all over the world, and yet we have the same.
Yeah, we're connected by our values.
Pardon?
Yeah, I was just saying we're all over the world physically, but we're connected by our values.
Yeah. So here for the ethos. Was that I can never know what's public and what's behind the scenes.
That wasn't me. That was
I think it's peace. We're like Joe Rogan. We pretend I've got somebody who's like changing the slide.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I've got a producer, people. Yeah, anyway, all right. So we've got a great, I think, very exciting year ahead. I'm super excited to kind of, watch this year pan out. I'm excited about the roadmap. I'm excited about the SIP, and incredible how with Alex, the feedback, this is happening in real time. If you go onto that forum, you're seeing people kind of, asking questions, making comments, and he is replying. And then, this morning there was a revision put out. Was it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This morning or last night or this morning. Yeah.
In response to the community. And we were saying on the show
Alex,
this afternoon,
Alex is on fire.
he is on fire. Okay. I literally texted him. Because he's coming on the show in like, I think 2 or 3 weeks. I
Nice.
literally hadn't even finished. Sent me your email address and was like, ping, Alex. I'm like, dude, how many Alexes are there? It's like a ninja. Alex is a total ninja who is incredible. I'm so excited to speak to him as well. And just seeing, we were saying today on the show, like, do you want to know what community is? We've spoken about community for the last 4 or 5 years. We have been a community. And every now and then I see it on Twitter. Somebody who hasn't responded to a tweet that I've done will just respond in a while. And I'm like, oh, they're still there. I know all these people. I know them by, I wouldn't say by face. I know them by frog, by dog.
It's amazing.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I think it's gonna be, I'm excited about this year, right? What are your kind of
I'm
in
so
closing,
pumped.
let's talk about it just sort of in closing, your vibes for the year ahead and for what is going on now with the roadmap, with the SIP, post sort of.
I'm so pumped. Like maybe it sounds cliche, but like I've never been more excited about what we're working on as a community. Like, I mean, the roadmap and the way we're connecting the value accrual to the Stacks asset, the idea that, like, just the idea that you can stake your Bitcoin, you'll be able to stake your Bitcoin for Bitcoin yield, right? The whole dual staking, like people, that's like that's like, the holy grail that
Yeah.
nobody ever thought could possibly exist, right? So just that in and of itself, like all I do is talk to partners and prospective partners and people all across the ecosystem, the crypto ecosystem, and the idea of Bitcoin in, Bitcoin out yield, right, and then being able to create multipliers on that Bitcoin yield by stacking stacks, like that's a fucking game changer. I mean, it's insane. And then not to mention just the breakthroughs that the core engines have had over the last 6 years on this kind of self-custodial SBTC minting, right? So you have complete control over your Bitcoin, and unilateral withdrawal. It's like, to me, I think, like, relying on a decentralized set of signers, like I'm all about that. Like that works for me. But like, taking it to like unilateral withdrawals when you want your Bitcoin back, that's next level. That's like, BitVM adjacent equivalent breakthrough. And it's just, it's crazy. I'm so fired up about the roadmap. And I know, like, the idea of, turning up the notch on inflation temporarily, is nothing to take for granted. Like it's significant. It's a significant move. But to me, it's just a no fucking brainer. It's like, we've put ourselves in a position to do something really special here, for Bitcoin, and like,
it's like a pill that tastes shitty, but it's going to make you like,
we have to do it. I mean, it's the opportunity of, like, we've put ourselves in this position and we're either going to win or we're not. And this is the way to win. To me, it's kind of slam dunk. But I think the process of getting all this feedback and and iterating and shaping this so it so truly all the stakeholders are being a part of it. That's just that's just poetic, right? That's because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's important. I remember with Hiro, like a year or so ago, we chatted about getting people more involved with the SIP process, and the fact that they didn't really know what it was, and it kind of was this weird thing. You'd hear like a SIP and a number, and then not really even know what it was. And so we kind of, what was I going to say? I saw peace typing, and I forgot about the SIP.
Peace.
Stop interrupting me, please, and confusing me. My brain doesn't work.
SIP 31 is going to go down in history. It's legendary. Yeah. It's going to be like SIP 9 and SIP 10. It's going to be in that league of fungible token standard and NFTs.
Yeah.
And now, like, bringing the resources we need to win.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing and it's exciting. And I think yesterday I was writing a thread on it. I wrote because I learn better when I write. And so I've got this thing called Bitcoin Weekly. We were laughing on the show today, and I'm supposed to put an article on there every Monday. But we didn't have the show last week because everybody was in Vegas. And I was stuck in bloody Cape Town. But anyway, no FOMO. So I just took the whole week off, no makeup, no doing my hair. It was so nice. So I just forgot to write an article. So the Monday article is coming out on Thursday night, people. That's just how it's going to be working. But I was writing. Pardon?
I look forward to it.
Yeah, but I was writing about the SIP, and then we were on the call today, and GP was like, oh yeah, Alex has just released like a second version of the thing. And I'm like, oh no, I literally should have just published this, Anyway, so I'm excited to see where it goes and the outcome of it. And I think, like you say, probably it is a no-brainer, but I think it is important to encourage people to play devil's advocate.
100%.
And to bring those, no argument is a stupid argument, because you make people think, and there could be a nugget in there.
So, think about it this way. No one in this ecosystem is someone who has gotten here because they've accepted the status quo, or they've just accepted what someone else told them is the right way to do things, right? We all are connected by that common thread of, okay, you know what? Yeah, you might say that that's the way it should be, but I'm an independent thinker, right? And that's what makes this all work. So it's got to be an inherent challenging and debating. It's an inherent part of the process.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, it's a good year. It's an exciting. I'd love to kind of. Hopefully, we can chat again. But
this is awesome. This is better. Yeah. This is better than working.
Yay! This is working, man.
I know. I'm joking. Yeah. No. I mean, anytime. If anytime you want to chat, just hit me up.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, do you want to? Is there anything else you kind of want to close off with, or?
Not really. I mean, I would just
the time of your life. And
what'd you say?
Besides the fact that you've had the best time of your life.
No, like, yeah, I mean, I'm just grateful to love what I do and to love those with whom I work, and to respect those with whom I work. Like, so I'm just grateful for all of it. But no, I would just close by thanking you for like everything you contribute to the community. It's so important, and it keeps it interesting, and it grows connection, and it helps people get to know each other, and it just makes everything more efficient and more fun. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I love it, and I just felt like, I wanted to show how real everybody was, that we were just like real people. That was an important part of this, doing the show and going beyond Bitcoin, because
yeah,
But yeah, okay, awesome. Well, I loved just having this opportunity to sit down and chat with you. And thank you very, very much to you. What do your parents think of what you do?
They're psyched. They don't fully understand it. But like they
Converted them,
they're proud. They're proud. They know that that I'm driven by trying to make a positive impact, and they know that it's a creative pursuit, which is very important to them, because my dad's a musician and my mom's a holistic healer. They're very creative people, and so yeah, just sort of like being driven by my passion is all they ever want. Is all they ever wanted for me. So they're happy.
That's so cool. On that note, see, be driven by your passion, people. That's the message today here at Bitcoin and Beyond. Right. So I've had the most amazing chat today with Jonas Gerber. I'm going to say it like we say it.
I love it. I might switch it up to that.
You've been christened on Bitcoin and Beyond. I'm Melanie Carstens. This is Bitcoin and Beyond. We're here every single Thursday at 12 p.m. ET. Thank you to Peace Love behind the scenes. Thank you to Deorganized Media. Thank you to Bitcoin Live DB. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate your support. And please join us every single week and do those things like liking and subscribing and whatever the YouTubers say. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.